Hey there, welcome. We're doing some more chatting on relationships and learning from the twin flame template how we move into sacred union more powerfully and with more consciousness and grace. So this is Lotus Art of Sacred Embodiment. Thanks for being here. Thanks for subscribing and liking. If you resonate, this is video too. I'm trying to get some videos in while these pups that I'm here taking care of are resting. So what I wanted to talk about is our best selves. Right, so I brought this up in a video probably, I don't know, last year or a year or two before, I don't even remember. And I was talking about how sometimes there's a way that when we first meet somebody, so again, we're talking about romantic relationships in this video. When we first meet somebody, we're always putting our best self forward, right? That happens most of the time. Maybe not all the time, but most of the time, we are actively calling forth our most, clear self, our kindest self, our considerate self, our generous self, um, and and those are very real parts of us. And that best self, over time, can, sort of leak away, and not completely away, but then, like, it's not really our true self starts to show up, because some people will say, oh, well, he put on this front or she put on this front when we first met, and then their true self started to show up. I think that's a little bit black and white personally, and I think that it is not staying mindful that we're all human, and we all have a full spectrum of expressions within us, and each of us have our own set of baggage that we carry, and it's very challenging unless we have moved through our healing and resolution and really knowing ourselves stages to stay in our best selves all the time, right? Because then we would be stepping into our divinity, which is actually where we are going, or what is coming our way. So I want to talk about how, the natural way of the personality is, from this embodiment perspective, is we do know how to step into our best expressions. And yet, they cannot necessarily be maintained without healing and cleaning out our basement, so to speak. Now, the beauty of the twin flame and that divine counterpart journey, when it is done through the inner alchemy, is that learning process of really, really deeply being guided in a variety of ways, right? But let's just say being soulfully guided or divinely guided to resolve all of our issues. And I'm using all, that's kind of an absolute. I don't mean it quite like that. But we are being shown through the energetics of the twin flame journey. When twin flames cannot or do not come into the material, physical relationship first, then what usually happens is there is this mystical journey that takes place. And when both counterparts have been initiated, right? So they come together and usually, right, we know that's a fit, we know that that's home. It's easy to bring our best selves to the forefront. And then as, relationships, life happens, our woundings start to come to the surface. There's activation for the feminine. The feminine starts on her healing journey, and then eventually at some point in time, there's a reconnection and an activation of the masculine so that the masculine can begin his deep healing and coming home and knowing himself more deeply. So when this process is happening, in the beginning, there's still that desire, right? That there's still that runner chaser residue left, and there's still that desire. I want to get closure. I went through this a lot. I want to get closure. I need to get closure. I need to say what I need to say. I need to apologize. I need to understand more deeply, right? So there's that way of needing our healing to happen through the other person. Natural phase and stage, right? And that becomes a natural way that we usually just operate in our realm of life and personalities. Okay, and I'm using that personality and personhood in a specific way because that is not necessarily what's happening on the soul level. On the soul level, there's this refining, and I made a video about it last week. There's a refining that happens where we no longer need the love, for instance, that we think we need from our person. We no longer need that external resolution. We no longer need even to make our amends, and maybe layers of amends, if it's not happening in the physical, right? And this is the mystery. This is the mystical, alchemical journey that we choose, that we surrender to, and that naturally moves through us if we call it in. And the twins teach us this because this is an organic process of this divine counterpart journey and inner alchemy journey. So what normally happens is there's this constant sort of pinging, right? It's almost like instantaneous text messages that can happen in the energetic realm where one counterpart might have a memory or might be going through some sort of their healing, and the other counterpart is signaled, right? It's a telepathic connection. And that begins to trigger that counterpart in experiencing maybe their version of what happened, or their projection, or maybe understanding the situation from the other perspective. There's a lot of ways that this can happen, but it happens in the energetic realm. And as each of those ethereal dances take place, the healing happens for both counterparts. And there is deeper and deeper refining of each of them individually. And there, over time and space, and depending on how long and where stages you're at in this journey, there is a strong role that the divine has in it, or life, or God, or whatever that is for you. Like for me, it started out as nature and the trees and the recognition of that being like the wires, right, that carried the information. And then over time, it evolved into more connection with my guides, and then like a deeper trust and knowing that the divine, that life is a part of this journey, right? And the souls are doing things together that the personality or the personhood cannot know and does not know. And that our highest selves operating in that multidimensional realm are assisting the two human counterparts. Now, as this happens, we grow in knowing our truth more. We grow in understanding the depths of our own being. We grow in a deeper soul connection because we're healing, right? Both counterparts are healing. And as this healing takes place, we become more at peace. We become more coherent. Our heart gradually begins to break through the hardening, right? The barriers. And because we're entering into deeper levels of self-love, of choosing ourselves, of self-honor, of that deeper recognition of our wholeness. And so while there's still the desire and on a soul level for that union in the physical realm, it's no longer a desire that comes from lack or being lonely or being half of who we are. Because as this happens, we're coming into our own inner masculine and inner feminine, and we're balancing so that our wants and our desires are based on a heart-soul connection of our truth in this lifetime, so to speak, not based on our personality. These are two different experiences, and the resonance and the frequency and how they are expressed are very different. The desire from the heart soul is not a need that needs us to get something from the outside. It is simply a desire for deepening and wholeness, to go even deeper, right? And when we're in this coherence and this learning process, we become more accountable for who we are. And I just did a video, right, on that deeper living and speaking from our truth and living from that alignment. This starts to happen naturally. So let me just finish that. We become more safe within ourselves, more grounded within ourselves, and so we are safer to be more vulnerable, to be more open, to risk more, to love more fully, without the fear of not getting that in return, because we are connected to our own love and to the divine love. All of this automatically, organically purifies our being, up levels our integrity, so that we begin to not have to, try to be our best selves, and try to hold on to that and not give a full spectrum of ourselves, but our best selves begin to be more of who we are. The reactivity dies away. The woundings of abandonment, not being enough, not mattering, of, low self-worth, low self-esteem, needing from the outside in order to be fixed, to be healed, right? All of that falls away. And then what embodies more fully are these higher expressions of our, higher self or our divinity. We aren't talking perfection. We aren't talking, some perfect state of I'm always only going to be, in that light and love. That's not what we're talking about. But what we're talking about is those higher expressions of the divine that are innately within us, that have always been us before we forgot. And before we went through the original divisions and separations eons and eons ago. So by choosing ourselves, by doing this work, and yet knowing that love is out there. So this is where you don't have to be in a twin flame template. You don't have to carry that blueprint to do this work, right? Because these are the processes that all of us are invited to go through now. And it is this internal refining our own inner masculine and feminine, and learning the nuances and the energetics that upgrade us, right? That invite us, and not just invite us, but birth us into a new kind of human, so that we can bring in and embody a very, very different kind of masculine and feminine presence. And I am talking about this in a very clear and clean, polarity expression. And you can feel into that what resonates for you. The point is that there is a recognition now that our wholeness and our ability to live from that empowered, sovereign, whole, and loving state means that when we come into relationship, we maintain more easily our best selves, because we've cleared the other stuff away. We've balanced our own alchemy, or rather, we have come into our inner alchemy of the elemental realms of us, those levels of composition, those ways of that our masculine and feminine show up that have been imbalanced. We heal the binds, the chains that bind us, and we break free. And when the more we come home, the more we are empowered to know that we are love. And that any love that we get to be a part of with our right aligned divine counterpart is going to be living from a wholeness and a healed space. And from that, there is a continuation of the spiritual evolution, but we're no longer in that personal growth phase. It's different. Okay, so there's that difference from personal growth, right? Karmic, conscious, sacred union, right? These are stepping stones from personal growth into our spiritual evolution, our spiritual beings, that we are embodying our spirit and soul within. Um, so naturally then, when all of this happens, there is a natural choosing. You know, in the twin flame, paradigm, that when the time is right, the twins, they naturally know that that they will be together. Now, that again may not always mean on this plane, but there's already a wholeness that has been established. And when they do come together, it's natural and it's organic, it's safe, and the next leg of that journey in the physical is its own new story, right? But the love is there. The connection is there. The faith and trust is there because the faith and trust has been established in the self, or is at least moving in that direction. And when we are utilizing this mapping, this template, if we don't carry that blueprint, then it becomes that same thing. Once we have reached a certain frequency and a certain coherence when our signature is aligned, right? So the twins, they have a signature that just fits automatically because they're part of that same geometry. It's a complement. If you don't carry the twin template, there is still your signature is going to resonate with the right signature that has moved through those similar developmental phases and stages. So all of this becomes, right, that deeper journey of the inner alchemy, the inner marriage, the sacred union that we birth inside of us, and the sacred union then that we birth onto the plane together when the time is right, when we have reached our right level of what we can do on our own, right? So even the twins, they're going to go as far as they can in their own right, in their own life, in their own inner realm. But there are still things that need to be learned in the physical. And that becomes the next layer and level of our development. But by doing the inner work first, we don't keep layering on more and more karma and activating more and more triggers. Instead, we get to organically watch and sense and feel how all of this arises just within us and life, and bring it into deeper resolution and integration and harmony. All right, so I think that's it on that. And yeah, so thanks for being here. Links are below if you have any other questions or curiosities. All right, blessings.